cross over the ocean, where my trouble can't follow me. Spend my days upon the water, with a roof as blue as the sea. If I hold you closely, Santorini, could you let me leave this all behind? Oh, you got me messed up and unfocused. You got me rolling in my sleep. You are the only thing that stays the same for me. Oh, you got me messed up and unfocused. You got me rolling in my sleep. You are the only thing that stays the same for me. If I hold you closely, Santorini, could you let me leave this all behind? Gonna wake me up this time. Never gonna get you off my mind, off my mind, off my mind. Never gonna get you off my mind, off my mind.
Tavia, it's been a long time. I think we first met in 2006. So what is that, 15 years ago? We planted that church in Elk Grove. You were one of our worship leaders. You're amazing. I remember when Dad bought you that first Taylor guitar, I just sat there, my mouth dropped, and thought, oh my goodness, this guitar is amazing, and this kid's amazing. You've had an incredible journey over the last 15 years. How can you help people understand that you went from being on a worship team in the church to now producing songs? You were in London making an album.
Mhm.
Tell us about your journey.
Wow. Well, how long do you have?
15 years.
We started off, Rob, you were one of the first people that really encouraged me to explore my voice and to put myself in front of people in a more confident, authentic way. You probably remember I was very timid at the time. I'd never have liked having eyes on me or having attention on me. I never liked the idea that someone would go, whoa, Tavia, you can sing, or have that wow moment where all of a sudden everyone looks at me and I'm kind of expected to be something. That's always terrified me. So entering worship was sort of a safe place for me to explore my musicality, not only because of the environment of church, where the eyes are not on you. They're on the Lord, and so I could explore that freely in that context, but also because I had someone like you who was helping me do that and kind of pastoring and mentoring me through that. So, I appreciate that a lot. I'll tell people now about, my worship pastor back when I was in high school, he was encouraging me to lead, and he was telling me I should sing more, and so anyway, side note is thank you to you for that, by the way. But, over the course of maybe it took probably about 10 years for me to get to a point where I was able to accept and own the fact that my passion not only was leading people in worship, but was also writing music. And I was writing that whole time, but I wasn't putting myself out in front of people to be seen and potentially criticized, or, other people to have their opinions on what songs I wrote or how I performed them. And so it took me until after college when I really started to own that and say, no, I want to be a songwriter. I want to be an artist. I don't have to be full of myself in order to be an artist. I can just make art and put it into the world and then let people experience it.
I've got this feeling inside my bones. This world has got nothing that could take my load, and I've started feeling like there's a mountain in tow. All the weight take me home. 'Cause yesterday was a landslide. Gotta fill the tank in my car and drive. There's a piece of lake that I'm gonna find, and a half a day full of peace of mind. Just to breathe. And I'm taking my troubles, my weary mind, and I'm trading my sorrows and leave them all behind. Oh, 'cause I won't go wasting these hours that I keep on loan. No more days and no more years. Oh, take me home. 'Cause yesterday was a landslide. Gotta fill the tank in my car and drive. There's a piece of lake that I'm gonna find, in a half a day full of peace of mind. Just to breathe. And I don't have to wait any longer for my spirit and soul to be broken and dry. Oh, yesterday was a landslide. Gotta fill the tank in my car and drive.
And so I started my recording journey a year or two after college. And then it honestly was just a slow, long process of finding myself through that. Writing songs that have felt honest has always been first priority. So my early music, if you listen back to the Everything Is Wrong EP, which is the first EP I put out of original songs outside of kind of the church context.
Yeah.
It's very sort of folk-based, folk, rock, pop, singer-songwriter, something in that world. And the songs are very personal. They're all things I've gone through, and this is how I'm dealing with them. Very sweet songs, very centered around family and my own history and things I've learned. And then a couple years later, I think it was in 2018, 2019, I met this who's now a good friend of mine. He's a producer named Phil Simmons. We met at a mutual friend's concert, just in the audience, started talking. And he said, Tavia, if you're looking for a producer and you want to explore sounds and figure this out, you can just have somebody make you a demo. Like any producer, they'll make you a demo, it'll be free, and you can see how you work with them. And I said, oh, great, do you want to do that for me? And he was like, oh, sure, I guess I'll do it. And so we worked on our first song together called Share It All. And it just clicked. Something really clicked there. And he had this way of taking my style, my influences, and then sort of pushing them outside of my box, but still staying true to me. So we made this EP together called A Walk into Madness and put it out in 2019. And half of those songs were written by me on my guitar, on my bed, same as always, and we produced them in a way that was true to that style, but also pushed the boundaries a little. And then the other half of those songs were written with him in the studio, written to a track. So a different way of writing. I'd never done it like that before. And so you'll get songs like A Walk in the Madness, which is the title track of that EP. You get songs like Dreamer Dreamer that are just slightly different in their structure and in the way that I approach the songwriting process. So all that to say, it was a really, really cool step in my artistic journey.
Yeah.
And so for this latest album that I'm in the process of putting out now, I actually went to London, which is where Phil's from, and we hunkered down for a week and just said, blank slate, let's see what comes out. It was actually the week that COVID started, so I didn't know that when I left. While I was in the studio, everyone went into lockdown in the US and in London. So around us, outside of the studio, the world was shutting down, things were happening. But in the studio, it was like we were in this little cave and didn't know what was happening outside of the world. And we had 5 days where we just wrote. And from start to finish, we made this album song order. So we started with track number 1. Okay, what comes next? Track number 2. Okay, what comes next? Track number 3. And we figured it out as we went along. And by the end of 5.5 days, we had a full album written and recorded and produced. All that had to be done was mix and master of it. So I came back from that trip, whirlwind, into a new world of COVID. Came home and everything was shut down and locked down, and it's just been crazy. So this whole year since then, I've just been making music videos and kind of doing the behind the scenes process in order to put that album out into the world.
And then next week you're off. Well, actually, yeah, for you next week you're off.
Yeah.
You're off touring up and down California.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting because a lot of the things that I'm doing right now, if you just say them, oh, Tavia's putting out an album, she recorded it in London, Tavia's going on tour, Tavia's putting out music videos, they all sound very grand, and they all sound very like, wow, how is she doing that? Or, wow, she must be really successful. And I like the fact that it looks that way from the outside, and I'm glad that the things that I'm putting out are professional and are solid. But the reality is every piece of that is very DIY. So I say this because the tour, for instance, sounds really impressive that I'm going on tour. The reality is me and my touring partner, we just hit up all of our friends and fans that are up the West Coast and said, does anyone want to host a concert? And especially because of COVID, we said, let's just do backyard concerts, keep it outside and make them small, intimate. And we found 7 or 8 people who wanted to host us. So we're taking a road trip and we're doing these tours. And the cool thing about doing it that way in this sort of DIY fashion is that you get people who are really invested in what you're doing and passionate that can then involve their friends and their community. And it becomes these intimate, special little moments that aren't cut and pasted like, oh, a label planned your tour and you're going to play these venues and then you're going to leave. It's very much like, I'm talking to you, you want to host me, I'm going to share my songs with you, we're going to share a meal together, and then I'm going to move on. And it's special that way. So this whole thing has come together sort of like that, actually.
That's pretty awesome, though. I mean, that said, from the outside looking in, it looks like it's successful. It looks like it's oh my goodness, take a look at these videos. They're so well done. The songs, it's interesting. People don't necessarily get to see what's happening behind the scenes and how much time, effort, work, emotional and physical investment that's gone into it. They just see the finished product.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about just that emotional and physical investment. What does it mean to try and go through that creative process of writing a song, putting yourself out there, and getting to that finished product? Talk to us about the roller coaster ride of that whole thing.
The first word that comes to my mind when I think about that process is loss, grief, and letting go. So when you're writing a song, it's not only finding something new, it's also letting go of the 1,000 other things it could have been. And each time you choose a word, each time you choose a melody, each time you decide this song is now finished, you've now shut down all of the thousands, millions of other ways that you could have improved the song. You could have changed the song. You could have, it's that process over and over and over again. And then when you go to record the song and you collaborate with someone like, for me, my producer, Phil, it's, again, a process of just letting go. Saying, I had this in mind, you are bringing this idea, now we have to let one of these things go and let it die and come to love the new thing that has become. Then making the music videos, we're investing all this time, all this energy into these ideas, and then as you edit and as you start to make decisions, cut, change, paste, copy, it sounds tiring because it is. but it's actually full of joy, because each time you let something go, you find something new. And so you go around and around this circle. You find something new and you let something go. You let something go and you find something new. And I think that's what keeps me so passionate about this art form, is because it's so engaging and it's so challenging, and it demands vulnerability constantly. It demands, if I'm going to make a song that means something, I have to open open up this deep part of myself that I haven't talked to anybody about, and I have to tell it to another person. And then I have to explore how to put that into words that other people can relate to as well. So it's one of the most beautiful things that I've ever been a part of. But, you know, it's easy for it to look really pleasant from the outside, and it's actually sort of a painful process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm scared to walk alone to my car in the evening. And if I'm honest, I never feel safe when I'm alone. I go to work to leave that fear behind in the morning, but then I realize this is the real world. My ghosts, they live and breathe. My ghosts keep haunting me. I've seen them since I was 10. It's on you that I'm praying, cut me loose from these darker days. It's on you. It's not how you paint it, it's the pain you're making, and we're told to fake it and just lie, 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 lie. It's the way you say it, it's what you created, and we're told to take it and just lie, 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 lie. I'm over making excuses for all your misbehavior. It's a tired story of a misspent youth, and I'm tired of speaking knowing that no one around me is listening. And then I realize this is the real world. My ghosts, they live and breathe. My ghosts keep haunting me, 'cause there's one thing left unsaid. It's on you that I'm praying, cut me loose from these darker days. It's on you. It's not how you paint it, it's the pain you're making, and we're told to fake it and just lie, 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 lie. It's the way you say it, it's what you created, and we're told to take it and just lie, 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 lie.
You went to Biola, and you know, at a time when I followed you quite a lot, because we were just across, you know, in Virginia, but even then when we first moved back to New Zealand, how has that impacted you in your faith journey, but also in, you know, in your creative process around, because you didn't just come straight out of high school and then went straight into just writing music. I mean, and touring and music videos, you know, went through quite a lengthy process. You talked about those 10 years before you really kind of, how did Biola and you know, community that you formed around there, how did that impact you?
Well, there's a lot of things I could probably talk about there. The friendships and relationships that I built in college were a big part of it, I would say. And I still have some of those friends are still very close to me now. Or I've collaborated on music with them actually recently, which is really cool. People who were in my band in college, I still play with them every once in a while. I think spiritually is kind of a more complicated piece, because where I was in my spiritual journey when I was in college is very different, I would say, to where I am now. And I'm grateful for that process, because Biola was a very helpful and easy bridge for me. I was homeschooled all the way through high school, and I was surrounded in sort of this little bubble of like just Christian families, basically. So going into Biola was an easy transition, because it's a lot of Christian kids, you know, and it's sort of a conservative leaning institution. So it was easy for me. And it's also a good place to start to ask questions and explore. And then as I left Biola and started doing more things in LA and in the music industry, while also being part of churches and doing ministry, because I was in ministry basically full time up until about 3 years ago. So it's been a continuing part of my story. But it's just been, again, a gradual process of asking questions and then meeting people of different perspectives and exploring those things. So even though I wouldn't say I believe a lot of the same things that I believed when I was at Biola, it was still a great place to start and a good foundation to have. And it gave me a lot of knowledge about the Bible and ability to dive into that myself as well, which is great.
Cool. So, touring coming up. What's your hope? If you were to look at yourself 12 months from now, I don't think COVID will leave us anytime soon.
Probably.
But the world is adapting, and we're slowly coming to grips with it.
Yeah.
What kind of a TAVIA are you hoping to see 12 months from now?
Wow. I think a TAVIA that is even more free. I think when I look at my journey as a whole, my story overall is a process of me becoming myself. And it probably is for everyone, you know. For me, it's been very poignantly that way. Very poignantly detaching myself from how I think I'm supposed to be or how I see myself reflected back from other people and finding just me just from who I am, you know, and expressing not just that, not just my own personal ideas, but also expressing the ideas and the perspectives of the people around me. So all that to say, I think that when I look at myself 12 months from now, I like the idea that I am continuing to push boundaries and continuing to put out visuals, music, collaborating with other artists that express freedom to the world and that express loving, you know, the loving kindness of God through humanity and through imperfection that we sort of deal with, through the brokenness that we experience around us in the world. There's something in that that's just so intangible, but so, like, gripping to me. I mean, I hope I'll be putting out another album. Maybe I'll be recording an album in a year from now, making more videos and connecting with more people. I hope to do another tour at some point, maybe COVID allowing, maybe something a little bit bigger, we'll see. But yeah, you know, I'm already doing what I want to do, so it's just a matter of hopefully being able to do it more fully and having a little bit more freedom to do that the way that I want to do it. Yeah.
So, TAVIA, I am putting you on the spot right now. Not that I haven't up until now, but there's a whole bunch of young people in our church. Many of them I see like mini TAVIAs, like you know, you back in 2006 when I first saw you, got a great talent, maybe a bit shy, maybe a bit insecure about how do they express their creativity or their talent, or the yearning to want to spread their wings, but you know, in a safe environment right now in church, what kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I guess it depends on what is your hang up, you know? If your hang up is that you are afraid of what other people think of you, which is kind of what mine was throughout my life, then you know, talk about your fears with other people. I found that my fears are strongest when I keep them to myself. And I spent a lot of my life doing that. And the more people that I talked to and shared, hey, this is what this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do, but I'm afraid to do it, the more confidence I was given to move forward, you know. And even through the process of making my album, that just this last year, the more people that I talked to and shared my vision with, the more opportunities I found that I wasn't expecting. Just saying, hey, my vision is to make a visual album. I want to make visuals for every single track on this album. That seemed impossible to me. And I started talking about that with just a couple people, and little did I know, one of them was like, hey, I want to do that with you. Can we actually talk over here? Let's try something. Hey, I know someone else who would want to be involved in that. So talk about your passions. Talk about the things that excite you. It doesn't have to be the same as someone else's passion. It can just be the thing that you notice is a spark in you and that you can't stop smiling when you start to talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about those things, and you just don't know where that's going to lead you, you know? So I just say, like, run as hard as you can, and don't let things hold you back. You know, don't wait to feel like you have everything together. Well, that's actually, that might be helpful to say also. You know, like even we're talking about my artistic presence. It looks very, wow, look at Tavia, she's doing all this awesome stuff. My experience of this on the other side of things is, wow, I don't have anything together. I'm struggling to keep up, and I'm da 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 da, and I have all these things to do, and I don't know if I'm gonna succeed at any of this. Everybody's going through that process themselves, so don't be intimidated when you see other people who look like they've got it all together, because they don't. They just don't. And they might have certain things together, but they don't have everything, and in the same way that you do. And yeah, it's just a matter of moving forward and not comparing yourself to other people, and just be who you are and do what you're passionate about. It sounds very generic when I'm saying it out loud, but it's so true, though, isn't it? Like,
Absolutely.
all these people say these things because they're true.
It's true. I mean, it was like when we were, back in, 2006, your hang-ups were that, I don't know if I should put myself forward. And it was just like, just do it. You're good, do it, And it was just the persistence that you had through that. And we went from, Life Song, and you ended up at Discovery and doing some stuff there with Jonathan and I. And then, and then you went off and you just made those steps, and you progressively broke those own boundaries within you.
Yeah.
Because you encouraged yourself or challenged yourself to just do it. Right. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think some people are like me, and they just need to be told, you know what, don't listen to anybody, just do what you love to do. And that maybe that's the advice for some people. Other people, maybe need to listen a little bit more to the people around them and the feedback that they're given. And I think you just have to do some self-evaluation and say, like, where am I? Where is my hang-up? And then move forward from there.
Oh, awesome. Hey, thanks for your time. Pray that, next week goes really well. You're safe on your travels, and you find a real peace and joy in your time sharing your music and your creativity with people. Pray for good connections and good weather, especially along the way. But it's been great to catch up with you and hear from your heart. Church, TAVIA, Church.